what is information? Information, you must understand, exists everywhere. It exists in this reality and in all other realities. For there can be no such thing as creation of any kind without information existing in that creation. You need to have information. You couldn't have air, trees, earth, planets, galaxies, all those things within their essence, within their being. Information exists, for it is the second variation, the second aspect of source, of God. For in the beginning there was only God, void, you can call it, void of any creation, all darkness, nothing, everything was the same, and nothing was everything at the same time. It was just an energetic possibility of information that existed from God. Then, once information was born, once information existed, that was the creation of other things. That was the separation of God's energy from everything to something finite, to something that could be something else. But you must understand, information has so many values to it. Information is tied in with energy. So energetic information should be what it's called. And why is that? All things are created from energy. Without information attached to that energy, there would only be energy with no form, formless. The Bible says the earth was formless and void. You must understand, information had to be attached to that energy. And when you attach information to energy, you get energetic information. That's when things start to take form. If I have energy, right? Let's just say there's an energy right here, right? It would just be nothing. It would exist even if you could see blue energy coming from my hands right now. It will only take form into something physical or more real than its base form of energy when I attach information to it. When I attach, let's just say I want it to be an apple, I would discern the information I need to become an apple. I would put it within that energy, and then that energy will start to form matter on the quantum level. It'll start to form until an apple appeared that reflected the information we inputted into that energy. Okay? Information exists everywhere. It's in the sky. It's in the stars. It's on earth. It's in your blood. We know this, for when we're born, human beings, children, they're born with predominant energy, predominant information, energetic information into their being. And then that's how we know how to breathe, move our muscles. We don't learn that. No one teaches us how to breathe. No one teaches us how the inner mechanics of our body works. It's natural. It already has that information within it. And as humans, we're able to interact with that information, absorb it, integrate it, and conceptualize into higher versions of information, to ascend, to understand things to a higher level. You can read a book. You can read that book when you're 5 years old, when you're 15 years old, and when you're 30 years old. And you have 3 different understandings from that book. We are ascending, advancing, multiplying, maturing into greater individuals. But not just humans. All things that interact with information. You could take a rock, and that rock going through rain, terrain, things that interact with it. Another rock hits it. That rock is also maturing, just in a very lesser, severe way. It's harder for us to really understand because we can't really see it, but there are things taking place from that rock that is maturing it as it's experiencing life in this world. Information exists all around us. The question is this: when I look at a flower and I see it's a dandelion, I can only understand it's a dandelion because of the information input into that plant that makes it a dandelion. Did I absorb the information from the plant? Or am I connected to another world where that information I'm connected to? And when I perceive that plant, I connect to the information dimension, and it gives me access to the information of that very plant. Where does the information reside? Everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Information is truly powerful. When you are able to really understand information, you are understanding the building blocks of reality. Just how we make video games, we make the internet, we code. You know, when you are coding a keyboard to have certain strokes and certain keys to make, when you press enter and it goes to a opening the door scenario on your computer, when you push, I want to say something, hi, and enter, you are, that enter button, that ability to say hi and then press it, that information to somebody else by pressing enter, was inputted into this world. You must understand, God created this world just like he made a video game, and he put certain information in this world that's easily accessible by us and not easily accessible by us. God created the heavens and earth, and he created the firmament to create a barrier between earth and between heaven. That firmament is a knowledge barrier. It's a wisdom barrier. It's a spiritual barrier that many people cannot overcome. Many people get lost in the information of this world and cannot ascend past that barrier to get to spiritual enlightenment of information, divine knowledge. Information truly has created all gods. People say, which God is true? Information created Zeus. Information created Odin. Information even created Jesus. He was a great, amazing, the closest reflection that we can document that is towards source. But yet, Jesus is information manifested divinely. Information exists eternally, forever, because energy is tied within it. This is why when someone dies in all world, when someone passes away, if anyone remembers them, they exist. And even deeper than that, God would say, I believe to Jeremiah, but to one of his prophets, that he knew them before they were born. God must have knew conceptually the information before the physical manifestation of that person. That would mean that there are higher forms of information, and all information exists before it's physically manifested into this world. Plato, the theory of forms, say that every single thing has a form, and the higher form it is, the closer reflection it is to God. But he's saying, before we invent anything, that information of what's invented already existed. So we don't create information. We simply discover information that already exists all around us. We are just going through the experience of discovering how much information exists, what information exists, and how well we can comprehend that information we connect to. You yourself need to understand we all exist in the information dimension. The birth of information. At the beginning, there was only source, an infinite and eternal void of energy with no true purpose behind it. For God, source existed, but truly had nothing else to do but sit within its own existence. It was black and dark and nothing else. For Source could look out in the vast ocean of the void and only see himself in the reflection. For there are no other things that were existed besides itself. But at some point, sentience was created. A self-awareness that the void existed. Not only that it was extremely and fairly more powerful than you can imagine. So it had all this power in all the energetic possibility, and yet it still only saw itself. Then, through the sentience, through the pondering, the sentience of the void began to ponder what could be from thee. Information was created. The birth of information was the true separation of energy that was only God to energy that is God, but reflective in something else. Many people call this Sophia. Many people call this the Holy Spirit. Whatever you manifest that you want to call it, it is the birth of divine knowledge. It is the building blocks of God's thoughts. Thinking about animals, thinking about realities, powers, laws, principalities, good and evil. The building blocks of reality. And all the creatures and sentience that come from that, even other gods like Zeus and Odin and Thor, those are all reflections. Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, they are all reflections of God's thoughts through the information, through the pondering of God. All reflections of God. It's simply energetic information taking different forms, using that information from God as its base foundation to create whatever form you take. You must understand. Look in the mirror and you will see a reflection of God. So then you must ask yourself, all things within the domain of God? Are there things that exist that are outside the domain of God? There is not. Many people would ask, so if the birth of information means the birth of all of existence, and all of existence and the characteristics, the characters, all of it, time, all of it came from the pondering of Source, and information was the second aspect of Source that allowed these things to be created? Why do things happen that are outside God's control if he truly is completely in control? Well, if I was a game developer and I made a game and I put certain rules in that game, yes, of course, at any point I can come and change those rules. But I simply want to see how the game progresses with the rules I put in place. God simply wants the world how it is. For what purpose? We will have to see. But all things you see in the world is a reflection of information that came from direct thoughts and pondering of God about this world and all other worlds that exist. For when he created information, just the very birth of information was the foundation for all other things to be created. Sophia, the owl, all things cannot separate itself from two things. The energy needed to be created and the information for that energy to take a specific form. And whatever form and character and energetic vibration and information you are at, you are directly linked to God's energy and God's knowledge. So you must understand, you cannot escape existence. For since you were born, God purposely and consciously thought and manifested you. For you are trapped within the barriers of information. I use the term energetic information a lot. Why is that? Okay. So, I pondered about information, okay, and energy. E equals mc squared. Energy equal mass times the speed of light squared. I always thought about that Einstein expression, okay? But what doesn't make sense to me, okay? Energy must, to me, exist before the characteristics attributed to it. So you could really make a theory or a formula: energy equal a chair, energy equals the sun, energy equals humans. Energy is the foundation of all things. You could take an apple, you could take an orange, you could take a human, you could take a rock, you could take a planet. If you would strip all information from all those things, it would only be energy. And then once you strip and when you keep stripping, it will reach its most base form of energy, which is God, source energy. So energetic information is simply energy embedded with information to give that energy purpose, to give that energy a function and specific characteristics to separate itself from other things that are not it. Nothing can be the same in this world unless it specifically has the same information, the same energy. Almost nothing can be truly the same besides source and God. You, as a human, can understand energetic information easily as you understand emotions, because emotions are directly tied to energy and information. When you get angry and you cultivate and generate that rage, that wrath, when you really like a person, love a person, and you generate those through the interaction of information with that person, you smell them, you kiss them, you love them, you generate that love. That's energetic information. And we try to separate that because we can't feel how it is to be a chair or to be a rock or to be certain properties of this world or certain manifestations that we don't really feel anything to, and we assume there was no feeling to them. Yeah, you must remove that kind of understanding. All things, everything is energy. And then when God inputted specific characteristics in this world, that information was embedded, cultivated with the energy to create something. God said, let there be light. Well, what he did was he has energy all around him. It's God's energy. He simply said, let there be light. What means is that he gave that energy certain characteristics to form and manifest in certain ways. Let there be light was saying the energy to manifest and take certain properties and characteristics so light can be manifested into this world. Okay? And what you must understand is that when you connect to certain information, rage, within you connecting to rage, you have the potential to connect to all forms of rage, to the lowest and highest. So you must be careful, for the information you connect to could be so tied into an energy that you're not aware of, that you can simply read a book and feel something you never felt before, because that information is tied directly to energy. And we don't know which information, which knowledge, which wisdom is tied to which energy and what it can cultivate. We can say if we read a love letter, it should cultivate love within us. No, some people may read a love letter and dislike it and not like that they were proposed to. This is why you have information. Someone gets on one knee and proposes to a woman, but that woman may not feel love, even though that information is designed to be a loving expression. We need to understand that information and energy are not separate at any level, and that their true base forms are the foundations of creation of this reality and all realities, characteristics, and characters within all things. Humans. What is the role of humans within the information dimension? Well, it's very simple. We are the manifestors of information. All things that have any kind of sentience, dogs, cats, frogs, dolphins, they can understand information, but only to a very, very low level degree. They may do some things that are interesting, but they can never make rocket ships or airplanes. We have the ability, that's why God gave us domain over all creatures and beasts on this planet and the planet itself. Why? Because we have the potential within us to eventually evolve into a form of ourselves that can manipulate, inform, understand, integrate, and access high levels of information that no other beast or creature in this world can do. We can connect to things that are completely bewildered to us. We can connect to, we can make cell phones, make the internet. We can give dolphins, cats, maybe eventually they'll do it, but it would take so long that it's not even being, noteworthy. We are the manifestors of information. We are the controllers of information. We are the ones to understand divine knowledge, higher force knowledge. We don't see dolphins praying at night. We don't see cats pondering their existence about God because, not that they shouldn't, they really can't. God did not embrace and bless upon them the ability to do so. So we are the ones to do it. We have been given the minds capable to understand information at degrees further than any other creature in this world. Not only that, we're connected to information that is almost inaccessible to anything that we know of. It took years and years and years of advancement and us evolving to a certain point physically and mentally. Because physical evolution is true, but mental evolution is also true. When you mentally evolve and access higher and more complex information than previous generations, and then bring that information from the conceptual world into the physical world, you are manifesting information that exists somewhere else and bringing into this world that actually does exist in relation to your existence. You must understand there are other dimensions. There are other information. When you read a comic book, and you read about Superman, or you read about Batman, or you read about these characters that exist somewhere else, but not here because the characteristics that they express, we don't see them here. They're a fictional tale. A fictional tale is merely you accessing information, or anyone accessing information from another world. We call it fiction, but that fiction exists in another world. It is only fiction because it does not exist here. That does not mean the information is incorrect. That just means that we can't apply it to our world. It's that simple. But we're able to connect to that information because our minds are multi-dimensional mechanics. It allows us to explore other variations of information, such as dimensions, reality, worlds, counterparts, and access something beyond our physical dimension, something beyond the world we physically live in. This is why God says you must not focus on worldly things. You must focus on spiritual things. You must focus on the principalities. You must believe even though you cannot see, because the information, remember, the firmament, God created a barrier of the heavens and the physical world. We're not able to physically gain proof of heaven, hell, or realities that exist far past the physical world. But what we are able to do is conceptualize it, understand it, and believe. And you should believe, because if you can access information, you can understand it to any degree, and you can even see it on a book or on any piece of paper that someone connected to, that information is real. Because information that's truly not real, you wouldn't even be able to conceptualize or understand it. All information is true, for it exists in God's word, and God gave us the ability to access it. And if it truly was not real, we would not even have the ability to access such information. For you, as a human, you are connected to the infinite and eternal value of information. What will you connect to next? Information. Now, information is infinite and eternal. You must understand this to a higher degree in terms of how to apply it to your life. And what I mean by this is you could take anything. You could take a form of anything. I could take this feather pen, okay? This feather pen can be black, blue, gray, white. It could be different lengths. It could have different ink. It could be a pencil. Just this one form has infinite and eternal values. It's infinite because there is essentially no finite number you can discern from this feather pen to say, oh, it can only be 1,228 different variations. No, it can be infinite. In the terms of reality and its existence in this world and all information interacting with this, what could be, it's infinite. It's unknowable knowledge. It's an unknowable, it's an unknowable amount, okay? So that's why it's infinite. And it's eternal. It's infinite because it has infinite amounts of information to interact with to change its form. Now, it's eternal because it exists as energetic information. Energy can never die. It only changes forms because the information itself will change into another form as it interacts with other information. Now, that's why it's eternal. Because it's made out of energy. Because it's made out of energy. The thing with information changes. And because information changes due to interaction with other information to an infinite level of possibilities, the form will change. But the energy within this form is eternal forever, regardless if it changes. And even in this very moment, this pen exists eternally, forever, infinitely, forever. So it's simply put, the very fact any form of information exists, it's eternal. And the very fact that you can make a definite characteristic of it means that it has infinite possibilities to that characteristic. You know, people say 1 + 1 is 2, 1 + 1 never equals 2. 1 has infinite value attached to itself. 2 has infinite value attached to itself. Anything has infinite value attached to itself because it can be interacted with so much information that's unknowable. It's truly an infinite amount of information, and the fact that it exists, it's eternal. Now, that is the reality of information. So when you go into your life and you think about what career to be, you know, if you're a mailman, you know, you can be so many forms of mailman. We live in a world to where we mentally trap ourselves into a finite form, not realizing even in that finite form exists infinite potential to be something else rather than what you are. Many people would discern themselves to a specific character and assume that they must act and behave how that character should behave. You know, and what you're doing is you're creating a prison for yourself to behave and act a certain way, not understanding that there is infinite and eternal value that's associated with that information that you are so fixated on. You know, people would say, oh, you know, you're a teacher. You can't say this or talk like this. You must behave like that. We live in a world where other ignorant minds will attack a person who wants to express themselves in an abstract way that doesn't align with society standards. Why? because those minds have been conditioned in a rigid in a way to where they only can discern themselves to a specific character in a finite form. You must understand just how information itself is infinite and eternal. All things that have been created out of information, which is everything, has infinite and eternal value, including you as a human. You hold infinite and eternal potential because you exist. Your possibilities are endless. Look at yourself and decide, who do you want to be within the vast world of infinite and eternal possibilities? So essentially, information is extremely powerful. It's extremely elusive because there's so many forms of information that exist, and it's always lurking. Information is eternal. It's infinite. So the possibilities of your very existence are so vast, way more vast than you can ever imagine. You can be so many things. You have so much potential tied to your being because you yourself is information. You yourself is an amalgamation of information that has gained sentience, that has certain characteristics, that can now express itself in human form. It is the greatest, one of the greatest aspects of Source, for it gives us the ability to have a separate experience, a separate sentience, a separate consciousness than God itself. If we did not have information tied to our being, then we would not be able to express ourselves. We would not be able to have free will. All will would be dominated by the predominant energetic vibration, information, energy, which is God. But God gives us the ability to understand information in ways of understanding yourself, understanding the world that you live in, and understanding your interactions in it and the secret hidden knowledge of this world. It's an experience, and as a human, you have been graced and blessed. You could have been a dog, a cat, you could have been a form of existence that cannot interact with information, that cannot understand information to the degrees and levels you do. Being a human, you access such potential, such possibilities that other things cannot hope to attain. God separated itself from us using the mechanic of information. And within human beings, we have the mind. You must understand this. The Father, the Son, and the Mother. God is the mind. God is all things, but in a small representation of us, all minds are a small amount of God's power, the pondering of what could be. The knowledge that exists in the world is the second aspect of creation, which is information, wisdom, knowledge, data. That has created the separation and gave information a purpose by embedding itself into energy, and then that energy is manifested into a specific character form. We are blessed to be human. We are blessed to understand what we can understand. We are the Son, the Mother, the Father, the Son, God's energy, God's knowledge, manifested both into a being that can understand the pondering of God, of God's mind, through the information of Sophia, which is God's knowledge, and express it, interact with it, and have an experience as the sun, which is the creation of God. All things are creation, but humans are specifically spectacular because we give God the ability to manifest within ourselves and experience the world. Information, when you can understand it, when you can integrate it, you need to acquire wisdom. When you are able to have wisdom in this information, in my Father's house, there are many mansions, and there's a house for you. There are so many possibilities in the world, good and evil, righteous, justice, a victim, hero, villain, all these things. You have many possibilities in this information because free will is truthfully this. Free will is the ability to decide what possibilities you want to bring in and manifest in the world through your being in the infinite and eternal vast ocean of possibilities that currently exist at any given time. You cannot interact with all information. You don't have the ability, the potential, nor do you have the form. We are finite beings as humans. We cannot interact with information to the levels of God because God has all information, past, present, and future. We have to choose and direct our thoughts, decisions, mentalities, and possibilities that best serve us, that best describe what we are. You must understand your true self, which is divine. Then you must understand what does the divine within you, your soul, your spirit, what does it eager for? What experiences do you need in your life to understand God, yourself, and this world to higher degrees? It's all in the foundation of information. Once you can understand your spirit, which is another form of energetic information, you will understand your possibilities. You will understand where you want to go, what decisions to make, how to get to your greatest life. What information do you not interact with, and what information do you interact with? Do you absorb and integrate into your life? What information serves you, and what information destroys you? You must understand the truth in all this. You must understand that information has a greater degree and a greater purpose than just existing randomly for people to just interact with it. You know, when I experience the world, I try to learn from every avenue I can. Fiction or nonfiction, comic books or real life applications. I try to extract wisdom and knowledge from all things and use that in ways that serve me. There's many different facets of information that exist that but I can't integrate all of them, and not all of them are best for me, even if I want to integrate with them. You know, there may be a person in my life that is really cool to be around, really funny, but I know when we get together, bad things manifest in my life that don't serve where I'm trying to go. So even though that information I may like the interactions, it still may not be what's best for me. You need to really be mindful and practical on the information you interact with and you allow into your mind and being, because this is something I haven't said. Information is alive. When you interact with the information, it's tied to energy, energetic vibrations, energetic information. So you may interact with specific knowledge and information that may overcome your spirit, your soul, and your will because it's too powerful for you. Or it can just lead you and influence you in directions you may not want to go. You need to understand what information truly is. You need to interact with it. 3 things: reality alignment. You need to understand your world, yourself, and your interactions in that very world. When you have that, you will not be so influenced and so thrown off your voyage, your path, your journey through the interactions of knowledge and information that don't best reflect and serve your purpose. You must see the whole world as vast information, and which information can you interact with, which serves you. For information exists everywhere, and it is temptations, desire, righteousness, virtue, and it is up to you to decide what information you would like to integrate into your being and allow it to direct your destiny. Understand, you are the manifester, you are the integrator, you are the discoverer, you are the key and pathway to knowledge and wisdom not yet manifested. What will you discover in the vast knowledge of this world?